Okay, so before we go out to start doing generative design with this, let's go ahead and get rid of some of this visual clutter. So we know that this is determining the right views now, so I'm just going to hide off this geometry. And we don't really need to see the little dots, the points. We really need to see the buildings. So we need to go back here and get rid of this visualization of the centroid and really turn on the level by color again so we see the building geometry. These are all going to end up in the output, so that's important. And we need a way to see this as an output. So I need to count how many views are actually working. So I'm going to do list count, and I'll show you how that works. It's just taking the views. We'll just hit run on this, and it'll just give us a count of how many good views there are. And we're really looking to maximize the number of good views. So now, in order to set up for generative design, which is a function that's already built in here, we need to do a few things. We need to set up the inputs and outputs. And I've tried to do a little bit of that as we went along, but I want to just kind of punch it up now. So if I go over list count and I right click on it, I can set it up as an output. That means an output to generative design. And that's a critical piece of data. We also would like to know the number of floors that we have so we can kind of track that. So let's go back over to where we actually figure the number of levels. And that was this idea of the math floor. The number of floors is 15. So I'm going to right click on that and make sure that that is labeled as an output. And then we have the things that we want to be able to adjust and make variable. For instance, the U and the V values, I want to label those as inputs. So I right click on it and make sure that is an input is selected. And that gives us, I think, one more choice, and that's actually the width of the floors, which we can vary. And that'll change our building height. So that's an input also. So make sure that's selected as an input. I'm just going to redo it to show you how it's done. All right, and now we may be pretty well set up to take a look at our project in a generative design mode. So I'll show you how we do that. We go up first. So I'm going to interrupt this video briefly because there was an interface change in 2021 with generative design. So I wanted to show you how that's going to be a little bit different for you than the way it was previously illustrated in this video, which you won't know about anyway because I'll erase it. So once you have your definition set up, and we'll kind of go back and forth with that, we're going to want to run a generative design. And the way we're going to do that is we go up to the top menu. We're in Dynamo. And we click on generative design and we open the generative design tool. And where my head is here, you'll see now that the interface is opened and we can create a study type and we can give that a description. I'll say test for video. We could drag an image in if we want, but we don't have to. Actually, maybe I'll find an image here just to show you how you can do that. I'm going to grab one and drag it on over. And there it is, the tower burning. So once that's set, you'll need to make sure you save this because it will request it if you don't. And you can go ahead and create a study type. Now, if it doesn't say ready here, it means that there's probably a problem with your inputs and outputs on your interface. But that'll be described more in the video if I haven't already. So I'm going to go ahead and create the study type. It says the study type is created. The study type dependencies were successfully created. And it tells you where it's stored. Users, in this case, Roger, desktop. And I can bring over let me bring over the menu structure here, just so you can see. Here's where that 2001 interface change dependencies was created. So that's important because in the next step, we're going to go ahead and create a study. And we're going to open up another interface. And I'll drag that onto the screen. And yours is not actually going to look like this. What's going to happen is you're going to see Autodesk samples most likely. And let me just briefly describe. What happens is it's already referencing a certain folder to find these study types. And I'm going to click on that little arrow here to add another folder. And actually, I'll just delete this folder right now, and then I'll recreate it. And so you would be faced with really no choices here. So what you want to do is create the add the new folder, add a new folder, and it'll give you choices on where to navigate to. And in this case, I want to navigate to the desktop. So I'll go to the desktop and I'll grab that 2021 dependencies. You can see it's the date today. And I'll go ahead and hit select folder. And I can close this window off. And now when I drag down here, I'll have those, oops, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let me actually show you what happened there. I'm going to click back. Actually, I'm glad I made that mistake. I went too far in. I actually selected the folder and didn't go just to the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm glad because that'll kind of be an easy to make mistake. Let me do that one more time. I'm going to go to where I want to find that. And that's actually right at the desktop. I don't want to actually select a specific folder. And I'm going to select that folder. And then I'm going to click complete. And then when I go to the desktop, I have a few other ones that I did, but now you'll see that actual interface showing up on the screen. And then you can go ahead and click into that. And now you'll have all of the opportunity to run the generative design, which I'll explain more in the video as it picks up after this edit. So I hope that's clear to you. And if it's not, if you're having any problems with it, please email me and I'll quickly try to get things straightened out for you. And when I've selected that, I can optimize it. But what I actually want to do is I want to run this as a randomized study. It'll do 40 solutions and it'll do it randomly. And we want to have some variables. And obviously we've selected these as inputs. The U value is an input, the V value is an input, and the number slider is an input. And we're ready to actually run a generative design study. So it'll vary the U value, the V value, the number slider for the width of the building, and it'll give us something as an output that we can then look for the optimum value. So I'll go ahead and generate that. It takes a few seconds to run it. It'll take longer with more complex problems. And now we have a whole bunch of scenarios. You look, these are all short buildings, so they probably have really poor views. And it's really optimized for the least number of floors right now. So I want to sort by the list count, which I should have renamed. I should have called it something different, which is best views. We could redo that. And you'll notice now that list count has from, no good views all the way up to somewhat over 250 views. And I want to select the highest value. So I want to select it descending so that our first value will be our best value. And you can see as I move along here, the grays, the poor choices in the simulation are towards the end of the visualization here. So you can't see the building here because of its location, but I can actually just rotate this and you can see it over here. So this is the highest building we can make, way over tight in this part of the site gives us the maximum number of views. And we could step through to see that there's the other kinds of simulations that were run, evaluations of other locations. We could actually try to do some variations on this run. And one of them, I think, I'll end the clip now so you can go ahead and experiment a little bit. But what I'll try to do is I'll just limit it to 14 floors. We'll make the building tall right away, and then we'll just look at the best location on the site. And we'll pick that up in the next video.